Hey guys, it's future Ellen here, and I just wanted to make sure that I warned you guys that if you haven't read It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, you might want to skip this video out. I try not to spoil any major plot points of It Starts With Us, but I do throughout the video kind of refer to certain major plot points of that first book, It Ends With Us. So if you haven't read that yet and you're sensitive to spoilers, maybe don't watch this video. And yeah, I also wanted to start off by giving a little synopsis of It Starts With Us. So in this novel, we follow a woman named Lily. She lives in Boston and she meets a neurosurgeon named Ryle at the top of this roof at the beginning of the novel, and then the rest of it follows their relationship. And then throughout this relationship, we see Lily reading through some old journals that she had in high school and returning her thoughts to this relationship she had with a guy named Atlas in high school who was homeless, and that's pretty much the bulk of the novel. And then It Starts With Us is just the sequel. When I first saw It Starts With Us, I just kind of assumed that maybe it would be a prequel. It's not. It's definitely just following where the first novel left off. Those are those novels. Also, if you guys could subscribe to my channel, that would mean the absolute world to me as a new YouTuber. So yeah, hit that subscribe button and that would be amazing. And let's get on with the rest of this reading vlog. Hello, fellow bookworms, and welcome to my first reading vlog. Today, I didn't have a lot going on and it's kind of overcast and cloudy, so I thought that it would be the perfect opportunity to film a reading vlog. And today I'm going to be reading It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. It's my third Colleen Hoover book that I've read, and I thought that at the end of the vlog I would give you guys some of my thoughts on both It Starts With Us and on Colleen Hoover as a whole, just because I know that her books are super popular right now. I have, I think, a little bit of a different opinion on her so far than most people do, so I thought it might be interesting to share that. But yeah, I'm going to be reading on my Kindle. I just have the basic white Kindle and I really like it. I never thought that I'd be someone who uses an e-reader. I definitely love the feeling of a paper book, but I've just found that this is so much easier. It's so much more convenient and lightweight. I can take it with me wherever I go. I use the Libby app so that I can get library books on to my Kindle. So pretty much reading for me is free. I don't like to spend money on books, so if you're like that, I would definitely look into getting a Kindle, getting the Libby app, or just using your local library to get books. But anyway, I digress. Excuse the wet hair. I did some yoga this morning and I just showered. But yeah, join with me in this cozy reading vlog. And if you're reading It Starts With Us, let me know your thoughts about it, if you like it, your thoughts about Colleen Hoover. And yeah, let's jump right into this. So before I start reading, I thought I'd whip up myself a quick little iced matcha latte. I am using the David's Tea sugar cookie matcha, and I just, scooped it in, whisked it up with a little milk frother, and now I'm gonna add in some ice. Silk Next milk. I think this is like a mix between oat milk and almond milk. But I've been liking it so far, so I'm just gonna fill the rest up with that. This has been my go-to drink lately. Now that I have that made, it is currently 11:38, and so yeah, now I'm gonna sit down with my drink and start reading, and hopefully I'll check back in with you guys whenever I get hungry for lunch. I'm back, so it's been about an hour, and I'm a little over halfway through It Starts With Us. My thoughts on it so far is, like, it's starting to get good. I think the first, 20% of the book was a little bit slow for me, but now some things in the plot are starting to happen that are catching more of my interest, and that's great. I definitely think Colleen Hoover's books are always entertaining. There are always twists and turns in the story that I don't expect, and that's always great when you're reading a novel. You want those twists and turns, you want to be entertained. However, some things that I feel like are missing from the novel are I'd love to see more like imperfections in Atlas. I just think that his character is a little too perfect, and all of the tension that is happening between Atlas and Lily is really coming from Ryle. But I wish that I could see some tension happening between them, not because of Ryle, but because of flaws in their own personalities. I think that would make their characters a little bit more nuanced. Like, I love Atlas, and I loved Atlas when I was reading It Ends With Us, but I just wish that his character was a little more nuanced. It seems a little bit flat to me just because of how perfect he is. And then the other thing I will say that I'm loving about this book so far is the interactions between Atlas and Lily and kids in their lives. I'm gonna try and not like spoil anything in this book in terms of like major plot points, but seeing Lily interact with her daughter and Atlas interacting with Lily's daughter, as well as Atlas has some other children in his life, not that they're his children, but just kids that he interacts with, and I love seeing the way that he interacts with them. And I think that the dialogue between these adult characters and the kids is really fun and interesting to read. And I think I might actually prefer that dialogue than the dialogue between Lily and Atlas, which probably isn't a good thing considering that this is a romance novel. And I wish that I could enjoy the dialogue between Lily and Atlas a little bit more, because I think at times it is kind of cheesy and Wattpad-y for me, for lack of a better word. But yeah, those are my thoughts so far, and I'm definitely feeling a little bit hungry now, so I think I'm gonna go make some lunch and I'll take you with me. Hello. So, to kind of go along with the cloudiness that's happening today, I thought that I'd keep it simple with a nice rainy day classic, tomato soup and grilled cheese. I've really been enjoying this roasted red pepper and tomato soup by the brand Pacifica. It's rare that I find like a boxed or a canned soup that I don't have to like doctor up with a ton of other ingredients. There are still a few things that I like to add to this, but it doesn't really need anything. I think it's salty enough for my liking and the flavors are really good, so I recommend picking this up. But I'm just going to shake it up a little bit, pour it into this mug. It's quite a large mug, so I tend to use these as a bowl. I'm just gonna pour some of that in there. Delicious. I usually get a damp paper towel. Sorry, you can't see me right now. I usually get a damp paper towel and pop it in the microwave for like 2 minutes. So I will be right back after I do that. Now the tomato soup is nice and bubbly, and I just like to add some fresh ground pepper, some chili flakes, and then finally, if I can open this package with one hand, some shredded Parmesan cheese. When it comes to the grilled cheese, I keep it pretty simple. Just have some white bread and some sliced pepper jack that I'm heating up. I will say my main tip when it comes to grilled cheeses is to just look and see when the bread is like that nice golden brown that you want. And when it gets to that point, the cheese might not be melted yet. And so I usually just pop it in the microwave for like 5 to 10 seconds. So this is my lunch all ready, featuring these gorgeous tulips I got at Trader Joe's yesterday. And yeah, I'm probably just gonna dig into this while I watch some Dream Home Makeover on Netflix. I deeply enjoyed that lunch, and now I decided to go for a quick little walk, try and get those steps in. It's hard to when you have so many sedentary hobbies like reading. I'm trying to be a little bit more active, and I'll probably start reading again as soon as I get back from this walk. And then after that, my husband and I are planning on going downtown for a little dinner date, and he is very excited because we are going to the spaghetti factory. If you've never been to the spaghetti factory, you are missing out. It's incredible. And I used to go there with my friends in high school all the time. It was like our go-to prom homecoming spot, but I remember we also went there when I moved away. I grew up in Minnesota, and then my parents moved to Texas right after I graduated from high school. Now I live in Utah with my husband, but anyway, he's never been there before, so I'm very excited for him to try it. And we're gonna take the train, and so hopefully I'll be able to read a little bit more while I'm on the train as well. So it's the next day, and I've finished reading It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. Last night was a lot of fun. I got a lot of reading done on the train. We ended up getting stuck in this blizzard, and we had to wait for our train for like 45 minutes, so I will stick a picture here of what I looked like in that moment. But other than that, it was really fun, and I was pleasantly surprised by how much reading I got done. I ended up only needing to read about 10 minutes of the book when I got home, and so I finished it last night. And now I just wanted to share some of my final thoughts about the book, as well as on Colleen Hoover in general. And I have my laptop here. I took some notes to make sure that my thoughts were more cohesive, so I'm looking down here at my laptop, that would be why. So I wanted to start out by talking about things that I enjoyed about this book. And I think the main thing that I enjoyed about this novel, as well as all of the other Colleen Hoover books that I've read, is that it was really quick to get through and it was entertaining. I've noticed that with all of Colleen Hoover's books, I tend to read them in, like a week pretty easily, which for some readers doesn't seem that fast, but for me is pretty quick. So if you're looking for a quick, exciting read with twists and turns, I would say that any of Colleen Hoover's books, at least based off of the ones that I've read, are a good choice. The younger characters in this novel, I thought their dialogue was super funny. I love the way that they interacted with some of the adult characters, and I thought it was just fun to see younger characters with big personalities and to see how different generations interact with each other. There were definitely certain aspects of this plot that I found to be unexpected as well and surprising, and I think that might be the reason why it was a quicker read for me. It definitely wasn't what I was expecting out of a sequel to It Ends With Us, and there were characters that ended up being in this novel that were unexpected for me. So overall, there were certain things that were unexpected. However, some things that I didn't like. There wasn't a lot of conflict, especially internal conflict between Lily and Atlas. I feel like a lot of their conflict, if not all of their conflict, was all external. And I feel like for a romance novel, that makes things really hard because we're not wondering if they're gonna end up together at the end or if they love each other even. It's always made really clear in the novel. And I think that can just be problematic when you're writing a romance novel because there's no suspense in terms of the romance itself. I also thought that Atlas as a character was kind of flat, a little bit too perfect, And I actually have some things that I highlighted on my Kindle. It was kind of funny when I was reading this. I noticed the only flaw, because I was looking for them. I was like, there has to be flaws in this freaking character. And I was looking for them, and the only time that I could really see a flaw is on page 322. Lily says, seeing a little bit of disarray in his garage is comforting. I was beginning to think that he was too good to be true, but Atlas Corrigan is behind on life and behind on laundry like the rest of us. So like his house is a little bit dirty. That was like the extent of his imperfections as a character. And I just find that to be a little bit unrealistic and also kind of boring. Like, I like romance novels where the characters are flawed, but you still love them. I can't relate to Atlas, and I also think that it's unrealistic for me to want someone like Atlas because he's just unattainable. He's too perfect. Honestly, when I was reading It Ends With Us, I didn't really notice that problem because I think I was caught up in the fact that he was homeless and he didn't have like that typical background, and that is kind of where like all of his flaws were. And since he's more established in this novel, all of those flaws are gone, and Hoover doesn't really make any other flaws. So I was a little bit disappointed by that. That's also probably a really unpopular opinion because I've seen online like so many people love Atlas and his character. So that's just how I feel about it. Going along with all of these things, I thought it was interesting how in the acknowledgements, Colleen Hoover talks about how she never wanted to write a sequel for It Ends With Us, but then when it like blew up on Book Talk and so many people were like asking her for a sequel, she did it. And she said, I realized most of you weren't asking for me to put them through more pain. You simply wanted to see Lily and Atlas happy. When I started playing around with an outline, I quickly realized how much I needed to see Lily and Atlas happy as well. And when I read that, I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense in terms of why there isn't a ton of conflict in this book. Because honestly, I feel like the majority of it is just seeing Lily and Atlas happy. And we get some external conflict from certain other characters, but the love that they have for each other is never questioned. We know that they want to be with each other. We know that they love each other. And in terms of plot, I think not having that conflict made it kind of, I don't want to say boring, because like I said, I read this book pretty quickly, but it did make it a little bit flat. And I found myself thinking by the end of it, like, what actually just happened in this novel? Like, what did I learn about these characters? There wasn't a lot to add to this story, and I understand why Colleen Hoover wanted to make a sequel since so many people were asking for it, but I definitely also see why she, after writing It Ends With Us, she didn't want to make a sequel, because I honestly feel like the first book left me a lot more satisfied than this one. Even though this one did have a very satisfying ending, I just thought that it was a little bit predictable, and I felt like I didn't gain any more appreciation or knowledge about these characters that I didn't already know from reading the first book. Moving on to what I think about Colleen Hoover in general, I just want to start off this section by saying, like, I never want to be one of those people that, like, puts authors down. Even though I see flaws in their books, I was an English major, I recently graduated, so I'm sure I could find flaws in, like, any book that I read. But at the same time, I think anyone that writes a book and anyone that gets that book published is amazing. I think a lot of people don't realize how much time and effort goes into writing a book and getting it published, and clearly Colleen Hoover is doing something right, or else, you know, she wouldn't have so many people reading her books right now. I definitely have a great respect for her, even if I see flaws in her writing, and even if certain aspects of her writing aren't for me personally. I've read It Ends With Us, It Starts With Us, and Verity, and those are the only Colleen Hoover books I've read, and all of them I've read very quickly. Colleen Hoover is a great author if you want to get out of like a reading slump, because they're really easy to get through. They're exciting, and you'll probably end up reading it really fast. With that being said, some things that I find problematic about Colleen Hoover's novels in general are, personally, I have a hard time rooting for the romances in her books because of all the toxicity like surrounding their relationships. We see that in It Ends With Us clearly, and also in Verity. Not so much in It Starts With Us, but I definitely have a hard time fully supporting some of the romances and some of the pairings in her novels. I remember like reading Verity, and like at the end of it, all I felt was like unsatisfied and disturbed. And I know that you were probably supposed to be disturbed in reading this book, but I wasn't expecting to feel so like unsatisfied with the ending. Like I thought there was going to be some huge like reveal or surprise. And I even went to Barnes & Noble to read like the extra last chapter that she added to it, hoping, you know, to get some sense of like satisfaction, and it just wasn't there for me. With that being said though, I think like It Ends With Us had a very, very satisfying ending. So I don't know if some of her novels leave you feeling dissatisfied and some of them don't, but that's just been my experience with reading her novels so far. I think the second problem I have with some of her books is that the characters are really unrelatable, and I know I touched on this already a little bit with just how perfect Atlas is, but in terms of Lily in It Ends With Us and It Starts With Us, I can't relate to her because she's kind of passive. And I really saw this in It Starts With Us in terms of how she treats some of the other characters in her life and how she lets them kind of walk all over her and mistreat her. I just wish that I could see a little bit more strength in that female character, and I kind of felt the same way about the female character in Verity as well. I'm sorry, I can't remember her name. I read that book a while ago, but I just remember being like blown away by how passive these characters were, and I wish that I could see a little bit more strength in them. Yeah, I think overall, if you're looking for a book to get you out of a reading slump, Colleen Hoover's books are a great option, but just be aware that you might not be able to root for all of the romances in these stories because of the toxic aspects, and that sometimes the characters can be a little bit unrelatable. But overall, I have mad respect for Colleen Hoover for getting so many people to read her books, for being such a prolific author. It's really impressive. But anyway, yeah, those are all my thoughts. If you'd like to recommend me any other Colleen Hoover books that you think I might like a little bit better based off of the things that I've said in this video, please leave a comment down below. I would be really interested in reading some more of her books and seeing what I think about them, and also just let me know what you think about It Starts With Us. And anyway, yeah, please subscribe, it would mean the world to me, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.